All right, y'all. This situation has gotten out of control. This is absolutely insane. No exaggeration. This is worse than what we thought. This Diddy situation is worse than what we thought. I sat here, I watched this whole briefing, this press briefing that just took place. I'm sorry if I'm kind of slurring. I fell the other day. Well, I fainted in the bathroom. I hit my head on the sink. I had a concussion. I'm still kind of concussed. So I'm not drunk or nothing like that. I'm slightly concussed. But I watched this press briefing and I could not believe my ears. I could not believe that this was actually the charges that they're bringing against Diddy, and specifically the details that they're presenting to the public. This whole case is about to get insane because the amount of people who are involved in this case is extensive. And I don't know. I don't think he's going to beat this one. I don't think a lot of people are going to beat this case. They're talking about racketeering charges. They're talking about RICO charges. They're alleging that this is a criminal organization that was ran by Diddy. Let me play this video. I want you to listen closely to the details of what they're alleging happened and check it out. Look, he's innocent until proven guilty. But when you listen to some of these charges, it's some heavy stuff and it's some sick stuff. It's some perverted stuff. All right, let's get to it. We're going to start with this press briefing. And then I want to read some of the official documents that they put out. I really want to unpack what took place and what's currently taking place. All right. So let's start with this one.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines.
Specifically, male workers was the part that I found very interesting. Specifically, male workers.
Allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee.
So he's talking about the video of Cassie. If y'all remember, there was a video that came out of Cassie and Diddy. It looked like in a hotel hallway. I don't know if he rented out the entire floor because there was nobody on that floor from what it seemed like in the video besides the Diddy and Cassie. And yeah, he's literally dragging her by her hair, all type of wild stuff. So he's referring to the video of Diddy and Cassie.
As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way.
A RICO case is crazy. I don't know the exact data in terms of how many individuals actually beat a RICO case, but I'm pretty sure it's less than 5%. Because y'all got to remember, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not anybody of any legal acumen or anything like that. I don't know anything. But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the RICO charge originally created in order to prosecute the mob? Because when you talk about a RICO charge, you're talking about an extensive network of criminals operating together in order to advance the interests of the criminal organization. So this is a lot of moving parts. It's very intricate. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of individuals. So it's not just Diddy. Diddy is most likely the most high profile individual in this case, but I'm sure there's other high profile individuals who are probably going to be wrapped up into this RICO charge as well. And that's why I find it very interesting that they put a RICO charge on him. Because if you think about it, and this is just me just thinking, if you think about it from a RICO standpoint, they probably have a lot of witnesses or potential witnesses. A lot of people who would be willing to testify against Diddy. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because a lot of these individuals who are probably connected to this RICO charge, they don't have the same financial ability to fight this case in the same manner that Diddy does. They don't have access to hundreds of millions of dollars and the best lawyers possibly on this earth in order to fight this case. And I think they're going to recognize that very quickly. And I think they're going to comply with this investigation, and they're going to work very hard to testify against Diddy. This is just me thinking out loud. I could be wrong. But I'm very interested into knowing who else is associated with this RICO case, because it's got to be a network of people. It's not just, a handful of people. There's got to be a network of people operating to make these things happen. But let's continue.
Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs' crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You have all of these people who are working for Diddy, right? You have all of these people who are stocking up the hotel rooms in anticipation for these freak-offs, right? They're stocking up the hotel rooms with supplies, with baby oil, with lube, with sheets and towels and all this type of stuff, right? And then after the freak-off, they're cleaning everything up. They're bribing the hotel employees in order to conceal what just took place. You have all these people who are on the ground who probably have a lot of information, who most likely have no actual authentic loyalty to Diddy whatsoever. I think this case is going to get very, very messy very, very quickly. Because the longer these individuals, these, ground workers, quote unquote, these people who are doing the dirty work, quote unquote, that sounds crazy, but you know what I mean? Like the day-to-day stuff, organizing stuff, planning flights for these men to come over to participate in these freak offs, planning transportation and meals and all this type of stuff. All these people who are on the ground making this network possible. What actual loyalty do you think they have to Diddy in a true, authentic way? Probably very little. And the more they withhold potential information that could aid and assist this investigation, the worse it's going to be for them and their own ability to defend themselves in this case. So I would not be surprised if we start seeing a bunch of information just flood out, because that's going to be these individuals' best chance at any potential freedom, at least for the next 10, 15 years, if not longer.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contained images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
Bro, that's crazy. I don't mean to get too gross, but I don't know if you heard what that man just said. He said they had 1,000 cases of lube in order to stock these hotel rooms for the freak-offs. This is some Sodom and Gomorrah type stuff. They into some Sodom and Gomorrah type stuff. This is crazy. And I think it really speaks to, it speaks to a lot of things. But one of the main things that's on my mind is how powerful lust actually is when you allow it to go unchecked in your life. When you allow lust to consume you, that sin, it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And when you have the amount of, and listen, I understand he's innocent until proven guilty. I'm just speaking on the charges that are brought against him. When you have the amount of resources that Diddy has, he's supposed to be a billionaire, right? When you have these resources, these connections, the power that he has, that lust that's growing inside of you, that sin, it can open up the doors to some sick stuff. A 1,000 cases is crazy. Like, that should have been a red flag. I don't know where the people at Amazon delivering these cases, y'all should have knew something was up. When you seen the order come through for 1,000 cases of lube, y'all should have knew something was up from that point. This is wild.
Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches.
So this is items that they recovered at the homes from Diddy. So you remember when they raided his houses and that was a whole big deal? These are some of the main items that they recovered.
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well that we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15.
Bro, that's crazy, dog. United States versus Sean Combs. Just be honest. Did you ever think you would see that? That is wild. That is wild.
And you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, This office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
Wow.
Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
This is what I was saying, bro. He said he encourages anyone with information about this case to come forward and to come forward quickly. I think we're going to see a lot of information start to flood. We're going to see a lot of things start to hit the media. I think we're going to see a lot of names start to get leaked. That's what I think. Because as I said, all of these people who are connected to this RICO case, they don't have the same ability to defend themselves like Diddy does. The longer they hold the information, the worse off it's going to be for them. That's why he said, come forward and come forward quick so that you can help us in this investigation. Otherwise, you going down with them.
With information can call 1-877-4-HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them. I also want to thank the dedicated case agents on the HSI Trafficking in Person Squad in New York. They have been with us since day one and have worked tirelessly on this investigation. They will continue to be invaluable partners to us. I also want to thank the incredible agents and analysts from SCNY who have also provided tremendous assistance on this case. I'm deeply grateful for their continued work. And finally, I want to thank the outstanding career prosecutors from SCNY who are handling this case. Meredith Foster, Emily Johnson, Chrissy Slavic, Madison Smizer, and Mitzi Steiner, and their supervisors, Jamie Backleeper and Jacqueline Kelly. They are members of the Civil Rights Unit in our criminal division. We created the Civil Rights Unit when I became U.S. Attorney. I'm deeply proud of their work on this and so many other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Eric Katursky, ABC.
Thanks, Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized by Sean Combs, and how many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Julia Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
I'm not taking anything off the table. I keep thinking about TD Jakes, bro. I keep thinking about TD Jakes, bro. That's what I keep thinking about.
Janet Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, there are different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
One more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC 7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the details.
You would think that this would be a life type of situation, right? I don't think you can sit against these charges and not have the possibility of life in prison staring you in the face.
Questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? It's mentioned plural in the indictment, but can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to what we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points. But we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
This is why I keep going back to. And I'm not trying to get too messy, but he was mentioned in it, right? So TD Jakes was mentioned in this. And I'm trying to figure out what category is he going to fall. Is he going to fall into the victim category or is he going to fall into the associate category? I'm trying to figure it out because it's either one of two categories. We know that he was involved. There was a whole statement that came out that was alleging his involvement, right? I'm just shocked, really. I wasn't expecting to wake up to this. I'm really shocked. And because this is not something that you typically beat. These are not cases, these are not charges that you typically beat. You know, when you hear somebody gets indicted, especially on a federal level, a federal indictment means they have a lot of evidence and they are confident that they're going to get a conviction. They're not going to indict you if they're not confident that they're going to get a conviction because they're not trying to mess up their conviction rate. So we're talking about 95+% conviction rate, if not higher. This is crazy.
Leah Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his residences, and did he have locations where he kept them, and they were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from. It's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it.
Was that at the residence or a hotel?
That was at a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because there is kidnapping charges against him. So I mean, he's talking about the incident with Cassie. But I wonder if there were other people that weren't allowed to leave. And that's kind of what it sounds like. Because in a sense, you're forcing people to participate in these freak-offs. That is a kidnapping charge, is it not? Because you're holding them against their will in order to participate in SEX acts.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There's a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the cases of lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residence? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, two of the face AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts, along with magazines with ammunition loaded in them. So, some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address, or is your office concerned with Combs' safety in custody given what happened with Epstein?
So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pre-trial. And of course, the decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pre-trial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case. And I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that or that worked on the Maxwell case?
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally and with increasing frequency, the word cooperative...
That's actually really interesting what he said about Epstein. Because you'd have to imagine that there's a lot of high-profile individuals who are probably associated with this case in some capacity. And I'm sure they don't want their names to be revealed publicly. So who knows what type of things might be pulled behind the scenes, what type of strings might be pulled in order to keep these names under wraps. I don't want to get too far down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but it is a very interesting correlation that he brought up.
Operating has taken on tremendous elasticity and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm actually very surprised. Like, because you gotta imagine Diddy knew what was coming down. You know what I'm saying? You gotta imagine he knew what was up. Because there's a video that I seen yesterday. I'll show it to you in a second, where Diddy was just sitting in Central Park, just amongst the people, just sitting in Central Park. It looked like he was just taking it all in for the last time. That's what it really looked like. Like, it looked like he was legitimately like just taking his freedom all in for the last time. And that was just a day before, hours before he was detained. It's crazy because I would have thought, and maybe this is just me thinking crazy, I would have thought dude would have been on a Greyhound to Mexico. That's what I would have thought, bro. Cause I'm just saying, I don't see a path. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see a path where you're beating this. You're doing some time. Significant amount of time. It would literally take a miracle for him to get out of this case. You're talking about racketeering. You're talking about trafficking. You're talking about a RICO charge in the state of New York. It's going to take a miracle to get out of this case. I'm just surprised he didn't get on a Greyhound and go to Mexico. That's just my own thoughts, just being reckless. But I'm shocked.
I'm not going to be
not saying that that's okay. Not saying that that's what he should have did. I'm just surprised because I know that he knew that this was going to happen.
Any sort of operational.
And I think that's why they were saying, like, bro, he's not going to get bail because he's a flight risk. He has access to go anywhere. Like, even if they take his passport, I mean, money talks, bro. You know what I'm saying? Money talks. He could get around. He could still move around without a passport. You just got to pay that fee. And then you could still move around without a passport. So I would be very shocked if he is allowed his freedom up until the trial. I think they're going to do everything that they can to detain him until the actual trial. And who knows when the actual trial is going to be. It could be 2 years before the actual trial happens. Who even knows? Especially with a case of this magnitude and with this many people involved and with this much evidence involved. this is going to be a very lengthy process. So if he's free up until the trial, I would be completely shocked.
As to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations.
Is it a big deal with the gun? How come they're not charged outright for liberating civilians on that count?
Well, I can't get into the charging decision. It is very meaningful to us that weapons were possessed, as we allege in the indictment. Part of the reason why this conduct was so pervasive and harmful was because victims and others didn't necessarily feel comfortable denying him his wishes, as we allege, because of the presence of firearms. I should leave it there.
Thanks. Last question, Jacob Shamison.
Jacob Shamsian, Business Insider. Thank you. Given that he's the sole defendant in this case and that you allege he's part of a conspiracy that involves members of his companies, do you anticipate a superseding indictment that bring allegations against other members of his companies or other co-conspirators as well?
I can't take anything off the table. Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing. And I think a lot of you who cover this office know that when we say such things, that developments are certainly foreseeable, but I cannot predict them sitting here today. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What part of his business empire is exposed for Richard?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me show you this video from TikTok real fast. There was a document that I want to read. I forget what the document, what it was called. I'll figure it out. Let me show you this video from Central Park yesterday that I was talking about. So this is allegedly from yesterday. Allegedly from yesterday, it says Diddy sunbathing in Central Park hours before arrest. I mean, take that how you want to take it. We have seen him, we've seen him out and about quite a bit recently. So that tells me that he obviously knew what was up. Let me see if I can find the document. Hold on. Diddy document. Forget what they called it. Washington Post. You got to pay for the Washington Post. PBS. Let me see. Okay. This is the sealed indictment. United States of America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love. Wow. For decades, so this was previously sealed. For decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, the defendant abused, threatens, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires. So this is what we heard earlier. I'm trying to see if there's anything new that he didn't speak on. Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial ex-workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial ex-workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging their financial support, and threatening to cut off the same and using intimidation and violence. The Combs enterprise. The Combs enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for the common purpose of achieving the objectives of Combs enterprise. The Combs enterprise was engaged in, and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. The defendant and other known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs enterprise affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of the security staff, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates. This is what I'm saying. These individuals, they've seen a lot. The security team, the household staff, his personal assistants. Do you think these individuals are going to withhold information just off of loyalty to Diddy? Absolutely not. When you're talking about your freedom versus loyalty to your employer, and I don't know how Diddy treated his employees. I could only imagine, because I used to watch Making the Band back in the day. That was one of my favorite shows, if I'm being real. Making the Band on MTV. I could only imagine, just based on how Diddy was treating people in Making the Band. And I know that's exaggerated because it's reality TV. But there is some truth to that. I could only imagine potentially how he would treat his employees. So what would give them reason to be loyal to him when they're literally facing the possibility of going to prison for 10, 15, maybe even longer amount of years, right? Crazy. Let me see something. I'm just curious, just to go back to this for a moment. TD Jakes mentioned in lawsuit against Diddy. So this was United States Federal Court, Southern District of New York. So this is just the same people who brought the indictment. I'm just trying to remember what exactly TD Jakes' involvement was in this case. Cuba Gooding Jr.? Okay, hold on. Hold on. Okay. It said Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his, okay, that's what I forgot. How he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact of his public image of the Cassie Ventura lawsuit. But then there was another allegation, the infamous power bottom allegation. But I forget specifically what was said. What was said specifically? I don't remember what was said specifically. but obviously there was some involvement. It said, oh, wait, hold on. It says, I'm also told that multiple male escorts corroborated the fact that TD Jakes has slept with multiple men at Diddy's parties and abroad. So, I mean, the escort part is consistent with what just came out in the indictment, because he said that Diddy hired multiple male ex-workers. So it said, I'm also told that multiple male escorts corroborated the fact that TD Jakes has slept with multiple men at Diddy's parties and abroad, and they refer to him as being a power bottom. It's also being said that a young male has acquired a lawyer to represent him, as he is set to sue Jakes for an incident that took place when he was just 16. According to the email, victims stated that he was allegedly forced to perform fellatio on TD Jakes, but the incident never saw the light of day because his parents were granted hush money. The family of the unnamed male eventually left Jakes' megachurch. So I think that's a completely unrelated story. So let's kind of break this down. They're saying that Diddy hired these men, orchestrated all of these freak-offs, purchased multiple hotel rooms for these freak-offs to take place, had his staff stock the rooms with different items, drugs, lube, extra sheets, things of that nature for the freak-off, didn't allow individuals to not participate in the freak-off. And one of the ways that he did that was by using drugs in order to get them to a state of mind so that they would participate, or he would use the tapes as extortion to force them into these freak-offs. And he did all of this for his own perverted, twisted benefit. I don't know if he was participating in these. I don't know if he was getting off to these videos that he was making. Who knows? This is crazy. I don't know how else to put it. It's crazy. It's terrible. The amount of people whose lives have been forever affected by this. I just want to know some more information, and I want to know who else is involved in this, because I have a feeling that this is going to be massive for the next 2, 3, 4 years and beyond. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like this video if you want to support. I'm out, y'all.